we're gonna close, we're gonna finish, we're gonna wrap up this crazy year with a very special guest, Eduardo Fernandez, Eduardo Buda Moreno Fernandez, which is an award-winning filmmaker, Mexican born and raised. He worked as also at UFC Network in Mexico. Also, he's working on his next future film. He knows a lot about MMA.
Hi, Enrique. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Yes, I'm a filmmaker, but also I have a passion for MMA, especially for UFC MMA. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of fighters here in Mexico, a lot of people like Tony Ferguson, Kelvin Gastelum, former champs like Fabricio Verdum and Cain Velasquez. And I also created and produced a MMA TV show called UFC Round Zero, that it was transmitted by UFC Network here in Mexico. So it's a real honor and a real pleasure being here with you.
Thank you, Eduardo. That's awesome. And we go way back. So, and we're going to talk a lot about MMA and UFC. But first of all, I would like to welcome you to the Barboner Network on ZINGOTV channel 250. Please remember to download both the Barboner and ZINGOTV apps in the respective app store on iOS and Android devices. Both apps are free. While you download them, make sure to rate and leave a comment. And ZINGOTV is also available on Google Chromecast and Chromecast TV sticks, Amazon Fire and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku TV sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. So, well, like Eduardo said, he worked at UFC Network, and it was pretty funny because we, like he told me about that, right? And I always ask him, I was like, hey, how big is Verdum? How strong is Kane? Right, right, Eduardo?
Yes. Like you were saying, I had that opportunity to hang out with some of them. Mostly, I had great relationships with them. With, for example, with Gabriel Benitez, Mowgli Benitez, that it's one of the first tough Latin America participants, and Jair Rodriguez. And yes, I remember that we were always like talking about who was stronger or who was faster in some sort of way, who was the silliest one, no? And I've had great experiences with most of them, like I've told you, with George Masvidal also. And yeah, it's been quite a good ride, a wild ride, I'd say.
Yeah, not as wild as 2020 for sure. So, well, for this program, we will try to talk about the best fights of 2020, most disappointing fights of 2020, best fighters of 2020, and looking forward to 2021. But because Eduardo is a very interesting character, maybe we'll drift a little. So, first of all, what do you think about the fights on this 2020?
Well, the fights in this 2020, first, I think we all know that it was a real challenging year, not only for sports, but for everyone, you know. So it's been like a year where the motto has been like to be ready at all times, you know, because you don't know when a new fight is coming, you know. That's why a lot of new fighters, of fresh fighters for the company, had like big opportunities and started to make a real career on the UFC, you know. I think that taking in mind all these COVID issues and all the impact that it will have in the economy, UFC really had a great year with their cards. They managed to stick them together to have them still like have cohesive force, because there's sometimes where people were starting to have COVID, and they quickly had like a new fight, you know, a new interesting fight that you could watch on the same card. this was also because they couldn't miss any fight for them to have their ESPN money, because of all this agreement they've got, this business they've got, ESPN and UFC. So I think it was. I don't know if it was the best year of them, but it was definitely one of the best in the last, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, something like that.
Yeah, like you said, well, you talk about a lot of stuff, but first of all, like not a lot of people like Dana White. I like him, and what he did was amazing because when everything shut down, he was like, "No, I'm going to bring back sports," and he did. Right? I remember that on that fight, Joyce Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, the first one.
That's the first one, like after the pandemic hit, and I remember that everybody was like everybody were watching that fight. A lot of friends that they're not like they're not love MMA like you and me, they text me and they were like, "Wow, are you watching that?" And I was like, "Of course." And so that was pretty awesome. And for best fights, like it was really good what the UFC did because we had fights every week, every weekend, right? And I think that we have to talk about UFC 248, Sang Whaley versus Joanna Churchik or Joanna Champion. That fight was crazy.
It was a real crazy fight. Like uh, it's been like in the top of the fight of the year lists in a lot of media I have seen, and it was like a real challenge for the first Chinese champ, no, for Shang Weili, having Joanna Champ return with all her pace and pressure that we already know because of her fine kickboxing, and it really started to become like a body horror movie, no? At the end, with all these
Yeah.
with all these swollen parts in head that Joanna started having, but it was a great fight. I think it's a little funny that it was in the early part of the year, and because of everything that's happened, a lot of people forgot that it was this year. No, people started thinking that it was maybe like 2 years ago or something like that. But I think it was the last numbered event before the lockdown, right? I think it was the first one, the last
Yes.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the first one, and like I think that the best way to finish the year it was with UFC 256, Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. So what about our boy Brandon Moreno?
exactly. Brandon Moreno, with all that Mexican spirit that has characterized our boxers and now our MMA fighters. I think it was a real. It's not that we were like leaving out his chances, no, like dropping Moreno's chances. I think we Figueredo or Figgy Smalls, like some people tend to say, to have the nickname for him. Figgy Smalls was like very dominant in this year. No, he had like stellar fights that he ended in the first or second round, no? So a lot of people was like maybe thinking that Moreno couldn't like stand up with him or maybe grapple with him. And we got a big surprise with him. Well, we Mexicans, we didn't have that because we already know his body of work, no? But he really showed off his great heart and his skills. And remember that he was cut down from UFC, I think, like last year or 2018. I don't
I
remember. He
yeah,
returned.
look,
He returned recently, and he's been like on a tear. He's been like winning a lot, and now he makes a statement to Figueiredo that Fig is not going to have it easy in this division. That there are also great fighters, and I'm craving for the second part.
Yes, of course. Honestly, I think he won that fight. I didn't
You think
like.
Moreno won?
Yeah. I think he won, and I didn't like how Figueiredo fought. I think he was kind of dirty. But yeah, like I'm looking forward
Do you think
to.
that the quick turnaround had something to do with the performance of Figueiredo? Because remember that they just had
Yeah,
like 3 weeks, before.
I think for both fighters, because having like 3 weeks like to recover, it's very hard, right? But they delivered, and this will lead us to the best fighters of 2020. So, what are your picks for best fighters of this year?
Best fighters. Uh, well, in some sort of way, you could make a division or make two different sections for best fighter in this year. No, we've got these champions that have delivered and that have defended their belts many times, like Figueiredo, that we were saying that he had 4 fights in this year, including the first one that he won to Benavides, but he missed weight and he couldn't get the belt. And we've got like the one that with Benavides where he also won, but that time he won the belt, and the two defenses, the Perez and the Moreno defenses. No, you,
Mhm.
you've got those like championship level section of best fighters, and we also got these fighters that started in the organization, started fighting, and had this motto that we were talking about of being ready all the time. You've got your Kevin Hollands, you've got your Hamzam Chimaevs, you've got your a lot of people don't remember that he fought and won 4 times, but heavyweight Marcin Tibura was also very active in this year. So I think I tend to separate them in those sections, the championship level and the ones that were like strong, having fights and pushing and pushing and pushing. And in my case, I believe the best fighter of this year will be Kevin Holland.
Yes, like, and yeah, like you said, this year helped like new fighters to like get a name for themselves, right? And with that motto, like be ready all the time. And what Kevin Holland did was amazing. He won five fights, which like the last record was held by Israel Adesanya, which was 4. So he beat that record. And obviously, like you talked about Kamsat Chimaev, he is like 9-0. He won like 3 times this year, and on his last fight lasted only 17 seconds. So about this fighter, there's a lot of hype behind him.
Lot.
Do you think is it real or not?
Well, I think in some sort of it was impressive what Hamzat did with these 3 fights, with these quick turnarounds, and also don't miss that he had different weights. He did it in middleweight and he did it in welterweight. No, so in some sort of way, I think there's a little more info that we need on him, and the Leon Edwards fight was going to be excellent to prove that. If he would have fight Leon this year and won, he will definitely deserve all the hype in the world, and maybe the fighter of the year award.
Yes. So yeah, like you said, I think that fight just got canceled because first Edwards got COVID, and then Chimaev got COVID, and now he's saying that he hasn't recovered 100%. But yeah, and I think that the fighter that deserves all the hype is Holland, because he just beat uh, Jacare Souza.
Yeah, Ronaldo Jacare Souza.
Exactly. So, and the thing with Chimaev is that he hasn't fought something like somebody from in the top 10 or top 5.
No,
And Holland did that. So I think he has all the hype behind.
yes, and remember, Enrique, that it was five fights in this year, but also starting from May. The first 5 months he didn't fight. So the next seven, he had five fights, 5 wins in the next 7 months. So that's quite impressive. And he was already asking for Hamzat Chimaev. I don't think that fight is coming. I don't think so, because UFC won't pit two rising stars at the same moment. But yeah, it would be pretty interesting, don't you agree, to have that fight?
Yes, and actually, like during this year, we had a lot of fights that paved the way to great fights this next year. So we will talk about this next point. Looking forward to 2021. So, which fights are you looking forward next year?
Well, definitely the first will be the next iteration of Fight Island, no, with these big three events that we've got, like in a 8 days span, something like that. The Holloway versus Cater sounds a lot of fun. The the Poirier McGregor too also sounds like it will be excellent, and even the co-main, that it's Chandler versus Hooker, with Michael Chandler doing having his UFC debut on that, sounds like quite interesting. So first, I think this January is going to be awesome with those fights.
Yes, I totally agree. And it's very interesting because when you have like a great fighter from Bellator that comes to the UFC, then like I have nothing against Bellator, but the UFC is a different game. Like we saw that with Ben Askren, he was winning everything in every organization. He came to the UFC, he impressed with 1 or 2 fights, and then Jorge Masvidal came and retired him. So that's going to be interesting. But
Jesus.
yeah, but how about like we have like a trifecta? We have Stipe Miocic, we have John Jones, and Israel Adesanya, and maybe they will fight between them. What do you think about that? Those great fights.
Well, like you exactly said it. It's like a trifecta, no? In some sort of way, I will definitely be in if I had like Stipe versus Jones, or Stipe versus Adesanya, or Adesanya versus Jones. No, those that mixing sounds like quite interesting. Uh, I'd like first to see maybe Miocic versus Jones. Although maybe the next opportunity for the belt, for Stipe's belt, is going to be given to Francis Ngannou, who that's well deserved. But I would definitely love that. No, I'm kind of a homer for Stipe. I like him as a fighter. He's one of my favorites, uh, and I think he deserves like the big payday that maybe a fight versus Jones could give him. No, so I would like to see that. I think that I think that maybe Jones will get the W in that one. I don't know what you think about it.
Well, now that you talk about Ngannou, I think we went together to watch that fight, the first fight, Ngannou versus
Exactly.
Miocic. I think we watched that fight and like we agreed that Ngannou got dominated by Miocic, but he deserves the rematch, and like he has crazy punching power. So we don't have to sleep on him because maybe he will beat Miocic. But like you said, John Jones is my favorite fighter because he's very smart. I love his fight IQ,
Yes.
and I think he could beat Miocic. But the thing is that also Miocic is one, if not the best heavyweight in history. So this is gonna be very interesting.
Very interesting, man. And also remember that the most probable fight that we're going to get from Israel Adesanya is going to be against Jan Blachowicz. that for the light heavyweight strap, and that would be also a very interesting fight, because in some sort of way Blachowicz was also a contender for best fighter of the year. Don't you agree? He did pretty awesome things this year.
Yes, like he proved that, well, he's a deserving champion. He has crazy punching power. Like, honestly, on that fight against Dominic Cruz, sorry,
Reyes.
Dominic Reyes, I I was expecting more from him, but I don't know what happened. Like, yeah, Blachowicz, he's a deserving champion, but Adesanya is a very smart fighter as well, and we saw that when he fought Paulo Costa. Yeah, and everybody was making fun of him because he's thin, right? And Paulo Costa is like this buff guy, right? And
He's
he
great.
dominated completely. He gave us an amazing performance, and he dismantled Paulo Costa. So I think if he follows that game plan, he can beat Blachowicz. But it's gonna be also a very interesting fight for sure. The fight that I'm expecting to see is John Jones versus Adesanya. That will be incredible.
Definitely, you're right. That will be like a milestone for the UFC events, no?
Yes, and to wrap up, do you have like any fight that you were disappointed by?
I think in some sort of way, a lot of us were disappointed with Adesanya versus Romero because of the lack of action. Don't you agree?
Yes, like I watched that fight the other day, and I understand Adesanya because Romero is very explosive, right? And I also understand Romero because Adesanya, same thing, right? But I think they respected like each other too much, and especially Romero. If you're the challenger, you have to go right and try to get that belt, and he didn't do that. So yeah, it was disappointing.
Exactly. It's like, but well, like you already said, Enrique. If you are Romero, it's not that easy to like go to stand in front of Adesanya, no, with that impeccable striking that he's got.
Exactly. So I think that both fighters, they tried to fight smart, and well, Israel did that, and he kept the belt. So well, we're running out of time. Thanks for coming to the show, Eduardo.
Thank you.
And before we go, why don't you tell us where we can see some of your work as a filmmaker, award-winning filmmakers? He has won a lot of awards, and where we can reach you to like talk about movies or MMA.
Well, exactly. I'm on Insta as EEM Fernandez, Fernandez. I think I said it correctly.
Yes.
EDM Fernandez. And yeah, I've got some stuff on YouTube, but you can hit me there on Insta, and I can direct you exactly to the world of my films.
Thank you. So go check out Eduardo's films; like they're incredible. And well, thanks again. And like, let me remind you that there are no fights this week. And remember to tune in Mondays for results and analysis, and Wednesdays for predictions and analysis at 7 p.m. Follow Barborner Network at BarbornerNet. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And remember, this is a conversation. Let me know what you think at Enrique Drums MX. This show can also be heard on the Barborner Radio Network on its 122 platforms. Please check out barborner.ca for all the news. Barborner, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again, Eduardo, and thanks for being on this New Year's special.
Gracias, Enrique.